How's it going, everybody? Dylan K. Johnson here. Welcome back to a new video. Today is going to be a long-term review of the Rep Fitness AB4100 bench. We've had this bench in our gym now for a little over a year and a half. It has been pretty much the sole bench this entire time that both myself and my wife have been using. We do have a Cybex military press bench that's basically gets used like maybe once a week. For like overhead extensions, dumbbell presses, whatever it may be, that kind of stuff. But for anything that requires a regular bench, the 4100 has been our daily driver for, again, the better part of a year and a half now. So in all that time, we've come to both love the bench and have found a few things or a few maybe minor flaws that we've experienced with it. And that's going to be the entire point of today's videos. I want to share with you guys kind of what our thoughts and experiences are having used and abused this bench for, again, over a year and a half. So let's just kind of dive straight into it. I am going to be linking the bench down below in the description if you want to check it out, because I'm not going to cover a lot of the kind of technical specifications of it. So if you want any of that information, go check out the link in the description below. I do also want to mention that that is an affiliate link. So if you decide to purchase the bench through that link, I get a little bit of a kickback. It helps me, just kind of helps to support the channel and helps me to continue making these videos for you guys. So it's definitely appreciated. I cannot express how much I appreciate all of you that have used our links in the past. You are the real MVPs of this channel. And again, I cannot express how much I appreciate you guys. But let's dive straight into this. Let's start things off with the price. Currently on Rep's website, the 4100 is listed at $400, or I believe it's like $399.99, basically $400. And that does not include taxes, but it does include shipping. So you're pretty much looking at like around $420-ish, I believe, after taxes. So yeah, for right around $400, that is going to be what you're going to be looking at for this specific bench. Now, you can also opt to purchase the wide pad upgrade, which is going to be an extra $100. We personally do not have it. I have never had a need for a wide pad. I'm not super wide, unfortunately. And my wife especially is not wide at all. She actually almost finds this bench to be too wide at times. So we've never seen the need to purchase that upgrade. But it is there for all of our big boys and girls out there that do prefer to bench off of a wide pad. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you're looking for it, it's going to be an extra $100. So you're going to be looking at about $500 all in for this bench and that specific padding. So moving on from there, let's talk a little bit about why we chose this bench to begin with. So if you recall, and I'll link it up here in the cards, we originally had the Rep Zero Gap bench. And with that bench, that was the first bench that we had in our home gym. We got that back all the way back in like 2017, I think. Whenever we started the home gym, that was the first bench that we got to go with everything else. And the biggest issue we had with that specific bench was simply the weight. It was, I believe it came in at about 125 pounds. Which is not necessarily heavy in and of itself, at least for myself. For my wife, it was definitely very heavy. But the issue is that the vast majority of that weight was centered pretty much right at the seat of the bench, where you're going to be picking it up from. So that's one of the reasons that we pretty much hated the 5000 series, the Zero Gap bench. Was because of how heavy it was. It was unruly to pick up and move around a small confined space like a garage or a home gym. So we were looking at the 4100. We wanted to get something that was lighter, more compact, and just in general easier to facilitate and move in our small space. And pretty much from all the research that we did at the time and all of the benches that were available, the 4100 fit the bill perfectly. It was significantly shorter. It's only about 51 inches long. It still was competition height, so it's still that 17 inches from the ground to the top of the pad. And then it's just a lighter bench. I believe the stated weight on it is only like 85 pounds. And the big difference between that and the 125 pounds of the Zero Gap is that the weight is evenly distributed across the entire frame of the 4100 bench, of this bench. So that means that picking it up is just night and day difference. It is so simple. I mean, you could just grab it with a finger and just boop, pick it up, move it around wherever you want in the gym. The shorter height of it makes it easy to kind of maneuver in tight spaces. And then a very, very, very nice benefit of this specific bench is it can be stored vertically. So when we don't need it, we just store it vertically in a corner out of the way. It takes up almost no space. It's about a 20 by 17 inch square that it takes up, because the frame of it is 20 inches wide. The back pad on the standard pad is 12 inches, I believe. And then again, it's that 17-inch height. So it takes up 17 by 20-inch spot in the gym when it's stored vertically. Basically, it takes up next to no space when it's stored vertically, which is a huge win in, again, a small confined space like a typical garage or home gym. We're lucky enough to be able to use our entire 2-stall garage, which is just over 420 square feet. But I know a lot of people out there are limited to either a half or a single car garage. They've got very small spaces, and you need a bench that can fit in that small space. And to me, in my opinion, the 4100 fits the bill perfectly. From its lightweight stature to its compact size, again, I can't express how nice it is just to be able to lift it up, move it around the gym wherever we need to, keep it standing up vertically so it's out of the way, and just let it be or whatever we need to do. Another really nice thing about it being so light is that it's very easy to both move up and down our platform that's surrounding our rack. So our Rep Fitness, our main rack, is sitting on a 4x8 platform that is 2 layers of OSB and then a layer of horse stall mats with like another plywood layer in the center. So it's got the platform in the center. You guys have seen it. You know what I'm talking about. But then in the front of it, we have a deadlift platform, which is the same 2 layers of OSB and then a layer of horse stall mat on top. Throughout the rest of our gym, we only have a single layer of horse stall mat. So what that means is there is a 1.5-inch lip surrounding our platform. Now with this bench, it's super easy because it's so light and just easy to move around to just pop it off the platform. And then when we need it back on the platform, we can just take it, get it right up there. I just kind of like to kitty corner it. So tip it onto one leg or one wheel, swing it over, pop the other wheel up on the platform, tip it back onto that wheel, and then just swing it on. Takes like 5 seconds, and it's just so easy to get it on and off the platform. It is a non-issue, essentially. Even for my wife, it is a non-issue in our gym, in our space. So that's another benefit of it being so light. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the cons of it being so light. First and foremost is it has the potential to slide. Now, this isn't so much applicable if you're on like a rubber flooring, but on our platform itself, on the plywood in the center of our platform, you guys know that I do a lot of different lever arm variations. With the vast majority of those, if I don't brace the bench in a specific way, it will end up sliding either forward or back on me based on if I'm pulling or pushing. So that is one kind of downside to it being so light. The other is, again, going back to kind of some of those lever arm variations, and you may have seen them in the past, sometimes with certain movements, the seat is so light that it will start to lift when I'm doing very heavy pressing movements in particular, anything like that. So it is kind of one of those downsides to having such a light bench. It's not going to be as anchored in place, I guess you could say. But again, that's not a huge issue. Usually if I do end up coming across that, so like I said, the primary way I deal with it is I simply will brace it from behind if I'm doing any type of pressing movement. I have not had that issue on the rubber flooring, but our platform is a bit slick. This is an issue that we've had going back to the first day when I built it. I honestly regret putting the plywood in the center of our platform. Never again. Honestly, never again will I actually build a platform, but that's a whole different rant. But no, that's an issue more with our platform itself, is that it tends to just be super slick. So even though the 4100, the bench, has rubber feet both on the tripod in the front as well as the legs in the back, there is rubber feeding, it does still slide on our wooden platform. But again, on the rubber, I've never had that issue. I've never had an issue with it sliding or moving around, doing any type of movement. Maybe if you tried to load up really heavy hip thrusts and you were trying to like press your back into the pad, it might end up sliding. But that's an issue that I've had with almost every single bench under the sun. Usually that's a fairly common issue for the vast majority of benches, unless you're talking about like a Williams strength style competition bench or one of those like 250 pound benches that you don't need to anchor. So that's just something to keep in mind, but I've harped on about that enough. Let's get into another thing that we really like about this bench, and that's going to be the ladder style adjustment. Going back to the 5000 series zero gap bench we originally had, that was a pop pin style bench or a pop pin style adjustment, meaning that you pull a pin out, you lift or lower the bench, you pop the pin or you let the pin go and it pops into place to set it the height that you want it to be at. Whereas with the ladder style, all you need to do is you grab the pad, you lift it up, the ladder will climb up the various heights, you let it go and it locks into place. The seat is a little bit different. You do have to actually lift the seat up, push the ladder in to set it at the height you want, or we kind of figured out a trick to it to where you just quickly lift up the seat and the ladder will swing in, and then if you quickly just kind of lower it, it'll lock into place. But for the most part, you do have to lift the seat, push the ladder into position, and then you can set it down and it'll lock. But in general, the ladder style adjustment is just a night and day difference. We absolutely love it. It is so quick and easy to adjust. In terms of the adjustability of the bench itself, the back pad has, I believe, 7 different adjustment points ranging from 0 degrees or flat all the way up to 85. So not quite 90. In my personal experience, though, for a normal style bench like this, I've never liked or needed one to go a full 90 degrees. I prefer that kind of 85 degree, slight lean to it, the slight backwards lean to it. It's just a little bit more comfortable for any movement where you're going to be needing it at that sharp of an angle. Everything else is going to be a 15 degree adjustment. So 0, 15, 30, 45, 60, and then 75, and then it has the 85. As for the seat, this is again where we have a slight complaint. So the seat only has 3 adjustment points, 0, 15, and 30 degrees. In my personal opinion, this is where the bench could be better. I personally wish that it had one more thumbs up, one more adjustment point. I wish it went up to 45 degrees. That is my only and probably my biggest complaint with this bench. As minor as it is, I wish it went up to 45 degrees. I've been very tempted in the past, very, very tempted to actually chop off part of the ladder so that I can kind of bring it out of the ladder cage system and set it up at like a 40 to 45 degree angle. But I haven't, just because I don't want to ruin the bench, because I figured eventually we're going to be getting rid of it and I don't want to cannibalize something that we're not going to be for sure keeping, even though it's been a year and a half. But no, that is again the only like major complaint or major issue. And it's not really even a huge issue, but it's the only thing that we've really experienced with this bench in the entire 18 months that we've used it. And that's pretty much it. Now, one other potential con with this bench to talk about is the pad gap. So the gap between the seat pad and the back pad. With this bench, it is actually smaller than something like the 5200. This is only 1.5 inches. I believe it's like 1.57 inches if we were to be exact. But there is a gap there. So for example, for us coming from a zero gap bench, it did take a little bit of getting used to. And another thing is because the overall length of this bench is going to be shorter than something like the 5200, I believe the 5200 is like 58 inches long versus this one's about 51 inches. So it's like a 6-inch, 7-inch difference between the two of them. The biggest difference is going to be if you like to flat bench solely on the back pad of your bench, basically treating it like a flat bench. With this one, for the vast majority of people, unless you're really short, all our short kings and queens out there, this isn't going to be an issue for you. But for the rest of us, that will be an issue. You are going to have to either take a little bit more care to position yourself so that your hips or your back or your tailbone or whatever it is not resting in that gap, versus, again, something like the 5200 where you have that longer back pad to where you are able to position your entire frame on just that back pad, at least the vast majority of people. Again, for us, it did take a little bit of getting used to. We had a zero gap bench for about 5.5 years, almost 6 years. So going from zero gap to now having about 1.5 inches and 1.6 inches of gap between the pads took us a couple of weeks to kind of really get a feel for in terms of positioning ourselves for various movements. Once we did, though, it has not been an issue for us personally. So it's one of those things where it's like, it could be an issue. Really, it doesn't take a huge amount of time to figure out. And again, for us, once we figured it out, it was no longer an issue. But it is something to, again, kind of bring up and mention. Now let's get into a little bit more of how has it held up over this 1.5 years of almost daily use and abuse. It's held up great, from the powder coating to the padding to the framing to basically everything about this bench has held up exceptionally well. There are a few chips on the frame itself from where we dropped things like kettlebells on it specifically, or dumbbells, even with our rubber coated dumbbells. I think it was more kettlebells or barbells. There are a few chip marks in the paint, but the vast majority of it, whatever paint style they use for it, has held up extremely well. There aren't any kind of serious scratches or gouges or anything in it. Again, minus those few spots where we dropped something on it unintentionally, a plate, a kettlebell, a dumbbell, whatever it may be, a barbell. And then in terms of the padding itself on it has also held up exceptionally well. There's no frays, no rips, tears, anything in our bench. Now, we do personally tend to treat our equipment fairly well. We paid for just about everything in this gym, especially something like the bench. We paid full price for this, brand new. So we tend to treat our stuff with respect. We keep it clean. We keep it maintained. We don't just toss it around the gym. So in that regard, we just kind of keep that in mind. We have taken very good care of it, but we haven't really gone out of our way to ensure that it isn't being used the way it should be. So from that aspect, it has held up fantastic. There's zero signs that it's going to be wearing down or breaking anytime soon with regards to either the framing, the pad, whatever it may be. It's held up fantastic. So to quickly summarize everything we've talked about in this video, we have used and abused the Rep Fitness AB 4100 bench for well over 1.5 years now, and we absolutely love it. It has very minimal signs of wear and tear after all that time. The padding has held up fantastic. The frame is in very good shape, minus a few dings and dents from where we dropped random pieces of gym equipment on it. And just in general, it has held up extremely well. It comes in at about $400. You do have the option to get a wide pad upgrade if you want to for an additional $100. But for us, we find that the width of 12 inches for the standard pad is just fine. The length of the bench comes in at 51 inches, which we find to be not an issue. For some people, that might be if you are trying to flat bench and avoid the 1.5 inch gap on it. But for us, again, it took a little bit of getting used to after moving from a zero gap bench to this. Once we got used to it, we haven't had any issues. The ladder style adjustment goes from 0 to 85 degrees. It goes from 0 to 75 in 15-degree increments, then from 75 to 85 on the back pad. The only major complaint that we have had with this bench is with the seat adjustment. It goes from 0, 15 to 30 degrees. So you only have those 3 adjustments. We really wish that it would go up to 45 degrees. If it went up to 45, then this, in my opinion, would be the perfect bench. And I will say that again, in my opinion, if this went up to a 45-degree incline on the seat pad, this would be the perfect home gym bench. We absolutely love it. It has been fantastic for us, for our needs. The biggest thing that we really like about it is both the weight and the footprint. It is so small and compact that it's easy to move around the gym. Because it can be stored vertically, we can just set it out of the way so that it's not in our way when we don't need it. Yet, because it's so light and easy to maneuver, we can easily move it around to wherever we do need it to be in the gym for whatever we're trying to use it for. So overall, this bench, I would say if I had to give it a rating, I would give it a solid 9.25 out of 10. Again, it has that one issue in our opinion, of the seat adjustability, but once you kind of get used to it, it's not a huge issue, I guess. It's just one of those quality of life things to where when you're doing any kind of lower incline or even really higher incline degree work, having that extra 15 degrees on the seat pad would be a huge help. And that is going to be it from me today, guys. So thank you again for watching. If there's anything I didn't cover or I just kind of glanced over with regards to this bench that you want to know more about, let me know down below in the comment section. Or if you want to see more about the kind of technical specifications of it, I will have it, like I said, linked in the description below. That is, again, an affiliate link. So if you decide to check it out or purchase this through that link, I do get a little bit of a kickback. Definitely appreciate that. It's kind of one of those things that helps to support this channel. It helps to keep it going. And yeah, I just really appreciate you guys that use our affiliate links. It means a lot to us. But for now, that's going to be it today. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. And I will see you guys in the next one. Because, like I said, this bench, as much as we love it, it's unfortunately going to be going away. So stay tuned for that video. It's going to be a fun one. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks. Depends on when the shipment I'm expecting comes in. I'm expecting it shipped today. I think it shipped today. It either shipped today or they got the tracking info and the freight company all set up today, and it'll ship out tomorrow. But either way, sometime probably next week, I'm going to be getting a freight delivery in with a couple pieces, which means I got to move stuff around in this gym because it's about to get real crowded in here in the next week or so. So yeah, I'm going to sign out for now. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye. Don't break the mic. All right, time to get the B-roll. And then I gotta figure out how to move stuff to fit 2 pieces of equipment in here. 2 big pieces of equipment in here. Shakies. It's gonna get real tight. I was hoping to have the leg press sold by now, but we'll see. I've got somebody that might be interested in it, either on like a layaway kind of thing. A friend of ours that has their own kind of personal training studio might be interested in taking it, and then I'd be more than happy with letting them take it and then just pay us on like a monthly basis kind of thing. Otherwise, it might end up having to be slightly disassembled and just stored in a corner for a little while. Oh boy, it's going to be interesting.